Mate, you said earlier that you place more emphasis on a review than a preview.
I just think that the early part of the week, your players need more recovery physically, and you can afford to do a lot more work video-wise and sort of technically with them, visually technically, if that makes sense. So I think that you spend more time in the early part of the week correcting what you did right. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. Correcting what you did wrong, but also focusing on what you did right. A review doesn't have to be, you know, people talk about a critique, for example. People think it's critique as being negative, and the word critique being related to criticism. But a critique can actually be of a positive nature. So I call a review to me is like a critique, and you sit there and you don't have to always point out things you did wrong. You've got to probably look at things that you could do better, but you need to also focus on things that you did very well, because you want to continue that. I think then that gives you an opportunity through the recovery phase in the early part of the week to get them out on the field and start to work on things you did in your review. Your preview, coming up with the team you're playing against, there's a couple of things about that, Dennis. One is that most guys watch games anyway, on a weekly basis. Most players will sit there and watch teams play. If you've been around for a long time playing the game, well, a lot of players will have played against a lot of players over a period of time. When you, my experience when you sit there and do your previews of who you're playing against, I find that after a period of time, and it doesn't take that long, players start to switch off. Because sometimes you're going over things that you went over last week or the week before. All that's happened is the colours of the team and the names of the players have changed. But you know, there's not a great deal of difference in the patterns that the teams play. Over the 14 other clubs, in my opinion, you can, if you've been around coaching for a while, you can pick fairly quickly what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. Then you go back to what Tim said yesterday, and he says, you know, in some respects, we spend a lot of time worried about the team opposition, you know, about what they're going to do. Spend a lot of time with tip sheets, looking at individual players, and I think that has to be less. I think you've got to cut that down and be less than what you do with the review. Because you're trying to part of it is trying to freshen them up physically, emotionally, and I think that if you spend too much time getting caught in it, you can hit them with too much information, and I think that can have an effect on their preparation. Having said that, I would hate to think a bloke comes out on Saturday or Sunday, steps off his right foot, and we haven't pointed that out, steps off his right foot and beats someone, and we